Welcome to our preview course for how to write a book in 90 days. And this is actually specifically focused on how to channel your book during quarantine, because we're in this really unique, unprecedented time in history where most of us find ourselves with this gift of time that we don't normally have. And that's biggest objection for most people as to why they don't write their book is, oh, I don't have the time. And so this is such a unique time actually for us to gather as community and support each other. And the intention for this, hour, maybe it may go into an hour 15. If we do Q&A, it might be an hour and a half, but this time together right now is that I want everyone who showed up, and some of you who actually got out of your pajamas. I know I'm wearing my pajama bottoms, but I want to reward you for showing up by inspiring you, motivating you, infusing you with the tools, inspiration, techniques for you to write more in the coming weeks than you've ever written. And I hope to do that on this call, whether or not you join me for the 90-day journey. My secondary intention for the call is to actually enroll whomever is called to be a part of a small group, like at least a dozen committed artists who are wanting to hold each other accountable to actually getting their work, on the page and out into the world. It is so profound to do this in tribe, to do this synergistically with other artists, and so this is the time for us to gather. And I'm going to share with you what that journey would look like. And so whether or not you're going to be in the course, my hope is that everybody comes away from this class going, okay, I need to rearrange my life a bit in order to build this new practice and this new habit to actually channel what, like being Source's secretary. Like, we all are unique perspectives and have a direct portal into like our inner wisdom and truth, and how to get that through the prism that is us, our unique perspective into the world, and then to touch our sphere of influence, whomever that may be. So the way that the course this class is gonna look is that I'm going to start us off. I'm gonna share a little bit about who I am and what I have to offer. Start us off with a little visioning, like a meditation, a centering to raise our vibration. And then I'd like to hear from a few of you about, we'll touch in on what we're wanting to write about, and some more on why we're writing is a really important question. But the way the whole book writing process is, I will say, is a lot like building a house, or even like, skyrise. You have to start with some planning, some blueprinting, some preparing before you build the foundation, and then the scaffolding and the structure, and you have, and you do this before. You don't start building a house by putting the skin on it or putting the roof on it. It's like there's, a method to the madness of creating, this craft. And so I want to share that this, in this class, some of the process, like everybody knows that writing a book has different phases, and there's, a pre-writing phase, a writing phase, a rewriting phase, and then there's, after the book is born, how you parent the book into the world by doing marketing, publicity, publishing, like all of that. And that's kind of the postscript of the course. But I'd like to talk a little bit about those phases in this initial class. So with that as our roadmap, I'm going to start by sharing. I think a lot of you know me as I'm getting an echo, so I'm going to try to mute everybody except myself. So many of you know me as a public figure, whether you know me from Tantra or polyamory. Maybe you know me as a theater director, and of course as a published author. But it's kind of like a secret passion of mine. Like, I'm not as well known as the creativity coach, but this is really like where the juice is for me. In fact, like having, like, I'm really proud of my babies here. I've got like a stack of books here, and I've got 2 books coming out through publishers this year. This is, for those of you that don't know, this is my first novel. So I wrote this when I was pregnant with my baby. I remember being pregnant at the book release party, and some of you were there. I see Francoise is with us. I know she was there. But the, writing books has always been like a private passion. It's something that feels inevitable for me. But along with doing that is actually even more important to, and during my own writing, is doing it in community, because I'm a tribal animal, and I find that writing can be so lonely. So in the journey of each book, it's always like, who are my writing allies? Who are my partners? Who are the people that we get to like create with? And so in that time, in the last, really it's been the last 2 decades, creativity and coaching creativity and working with writers has been like, it is so near and dear to my heart. In fact, I'm a better writing coach than I am an author. Like, I'm better at coaching than I am at writing. And that's humbling, because I consider myself a good writer, but I am an excellent coach. And part of that's just the enthusiasm for how people can be fully expressed. Like, it's kind of like watching our friends blossom, and nothing will make us blossom more than being an open channel. So that's my come from. That's where like my heart is in, hey, I'm wanting to offer this. And right now more than ever, like, I feel the world needs our work, our words, our messages. It's so important to me. Like I was telling Michael, I'm like, I'm not doing this class because, I had 5 events that were canceled because of social distancing. And yes, that's tragic, but part of me is like, yay, I get more time to write. And it's not like, oh, let me do an online course. It's more like, now that I get to write, I want to write with other people. And the proceeds that I make from this course, I actually want to donate to the cause of feeding, hungry children who can't get food at their, from their schools. So I want to say that up front, that this is not a for-profit endeavor right now. This is something that I believe in so strongly, that I really want people to, be committed to enroll in, and then also do good, not just in their writing, but do good in the world with their investment in this course. So having said that up front, I'd love to take us on a little journey, and this is to ground ourselves, to center, to open the channel, because after that, we'll be talking a lot more about channeling. But, channeling is actually a natural flow state, and it's something that we can access all the time. And it starts with raising our vibration. So I'm going to invite you to find a comfortable position. And I'm going to invite you to close your eyes, make whatever micro adjustments will assist in your opening the central axis of your body. So follow the exhalation all the way down. So take a few more exhales and relax the base, the root, even extend the tailbone. So using your imagination to send roots down from the base of your body through the foundation of the building into the earth. Soften your breath as these roots meet with the fertile soil. And just trust the wisdom of your grounding cords. Let them find the layers. It's almost as if they were just gnarling and stretching and reaching to the place in the earth that has the most nourishment for you right now. Few breaths just resting in your connection with the earth and feeling the vibration, the electromagnetic core. And draw that vibration up into your own core. And find that ecstatic current as it comes up through the inhale, naturally flowing up through the central axis, like awakening, moving, enlivening the trunk of your body. Up through the heart. And feeling the expansion in the upper chakras as you move through the portal that is the heart. You branch out in the direction of the cosmos. So let your energy lift up towards the heavens. Breathing naturally, comfortably opening beyond this atmosphere, really feeling beyond the gravitational pull of this planet into the other planets, like feel the moon and the dancing of the other planets and the relationship that you have with these celestial bodies, including and especially the sun. And for a few farther breaths, allow yourself to tune into the sun's gravitational pull, that the sun is actually orbiting around a black hole in the center of the galaxy. Let yourself feel beyond into this void. And then I'm going to invite awareness back through the portal of the heart. So as you're stretched out in the direction of the core of the earth and the core of the galaxy, come into the core of the heart, the sacred core. And feel how unique your perspective is in the universe. You are a portal. You are a unique emanation of the divine. And you are here for purpose and pleasure and passion. You're here to experience the universe so that the divine can experience itself through you. You're also here to serve and contribute, to experience like evolution, whatever's, that which has not yet been experienced. Like you're unfolding reality. And as you are moving through the rich life experience and having this connection, this awareness of your own divinity, you also have access to, profound information, wisdom, insight. And I invite you in this state of knowing to imagine holding your book to your heart. And so it's just almost like a remembering that there is a book with your name on it, that it already exists, beyond time and space, that inside your heart, there's a book that has your title on it. You can even imagine on the back cover, your picture with an about the author paragraph. But in your heart, this book exists. And as you hold it, get the sense of it is done. You have already created it. And all of the accomplishment and pride and enthusiasm that comes with knowing that there's a message for the world from you in this book. And I'm going to invite you in the next 5 or 10 breaths in your mind's eye to look at that book and notice something you didn't notice at first. Maybe it's the color of the cover. Maybe it's flipping through the pages. There might be a graphic in it. Noticing a headline, or maybe the table of contents. Peruse it the way you'd peruse a book on a bookshelf. Like acquainting yourself with this being that has a life of its own. And all the enthusiasm of getting to know it. But notice a detail that surprises you. Something you didn't expect to see on your own book. And then when you're complete, you can hold the book in your hands as if you were namasteing, bowing to this book, thanking it for its existence, for its wisdom, for its transmission. And then let it merge back into your heart from where it came. Deep breaths. When you're ready, opening your eyes. Beautiful. So what I'd love to do is hear from anyone, just a few people who are on video that have an insight or something exciting to share. And I know it's vulnerable to do that here, but it's also, you know, this is a conscious circle of people who are wanting to support your full expression. So allow yourself to speak into, ooh, I noticed this, or I had that, or this is the book title. So any shares from that, I'm going to ask you to share your name, where you are, and if you know what the book is about, or anything that came through your visualization briefly, be great to hear. Show of hands, who wants to share? I see, is that Todd? Good.
Hi, I'm so good to see Tommy G.
Great, Tom.
One of the things that I saw, I'm in Columbus, Ohio, and one of the things that I envisioned was a stay open binding, so you could leave it there and it doesn't hurt the book.
Oh, that's so great. Thank you.
Cool.
Excellent. And do you have a sense of what you want to write about?
Either staying healthy on the road, or I've got a fantasy novel in my mind too that just keeps coming in.
Ooh, fantastic.
Aliens.
Oh, exciting. Thank you. And you call yourself Tommy G, yeah?
Yeah, most of the time.
Great.
We met in West.
I remember. It's good to see you. We did some acro yoga together.
Yeah.
Great to
nice
see you.
Thank you.
Good. Who's next?
I could speak.
Brian.
Yes. Well, as I had mentioned to you in an email, I wanted to cover some topic on houses, construction, energy design kind of stuff. Over the years of experience remodeling and building, and all the building science seminars I've been to, I feel like I'm a walking encyclopedia of houses.
Great.
So I want to do something about that, but also my approach is, I've always wanted to be helpful with people, because what I know is that could be very valuable to a lot of people that they don't simply have the time to come to understand, in terms of how they deal with their homes and why things happen the way they do.
Sure.
But in addition to that, I was thinking I'd like to do it in a way that's kind of, at the same time, serious, is also perhaps philosophical and humorous.
Mm.
And do it sort of a Zen in the art of houses.
Great. Good. Thank you. And, Brian, this will be his second time through the journey, and I will share with the class a little bit about the really important point that you brought up about, how much to research or not research for the class. So recently, Brian and I were talking on email, and one of his obstacles in the 90-day journey in the last time was, getting bogged down by research. And he brought up the really good point around, like, hey, if we're going to write a book in this format, like really channeling it quickly, it's not, hey, let's choose something we're interested in learning about. Let's choose something that we're already in our expertise about, because coming from that own inner authority, you can flow more. And my high recommendation is to, when there is something that you need to research, because obviously we want to have the most current information in our books and make our books, even fiction needs to be researched. You want it to be believable. Otherwise you lose your readership. But to just make a note, okay, research that later. Let me stay in the flow state. Let me keep writing. And so that the 90-day channeling process is really like the white hot creative, getting what you know down on the page, as opposed to, spending 90 days researching, because we all know, especially with today's Google search abilities, that you could spend 90 days researching and have no book to show for it. So thank you for bringing up that really important point.
Yeah, let me quickly share that based on what you had shown us in last time. If you've got some knowledge, I think your process was an amazing way to structure the whole thing to make it simpler, so you can focus on what you know rather than how to do it.
Great.
Makes it a lot simpler.
Thank you. Sweet. So who else had a insight from the visualization? Diane?
hear me?
There you are. Wait, I think you're still muted. Hold on. I'll let you unmute yourself.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hi there. I wanted to share that during the visualization, I got a very strong sensation of trust in myself and the group, because I think I also, like Brian, have been caught up in the research process where I've actually lost trust in my own ability to write and my own knowledge on something that I know a lot about. And so that is what I really got from that grounding, that this is a safe place where I can really write what I know and just trust myself and just get it all out on paper.
Great. Oh, I love it. Yeah. There's this thing about, we do these visualizations and sometimes it's clear audio. Like I often will hear a voice. Sometimes it's visual, like, ooh, I can see a picture now. But to have a sense of trust is actually clear gnosis. It's a felt sense. It's a feeling. So it's beautiful to get that gnosis come through you. Tell me what you are interested in writing a book about this time.
I am writing a book about the power of burn journaling, which is writing, and in the process of writing, letting go, clearing, and inviting and manifesting, and then burning it as in sort of a ritual to let go. And there's a lot of research on it, and there's a lot of books that talk about it. So I'm taking my own personal experience, my decade of doing burn journaling and talking about it and workshopping about it and putting it all in one book.
Beautiful. Thank you. That's exciting.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll take one more share from the visualization. Who else wants to share something? I saw clarity.
Okay. Kamala Devi? Okay.
Yes. I lost your...
Can't see you. Yeah, I can't see you guys. Okay. What I got was I could see my book, and I now know what I'm writing about, which I didn't know a minute before that. So it just came through my heart, and thank you so much for that. And it's just so incredible to be in this room with so many of my mentors, my dear friends, and so I'm excited. Thank you.
Sweet. Well, you want to leave us hanging on a
Yes.
I saw the face of my true love, but I won't tell you who it is.
Yeah.
No,
yeah,
I actually really honored that. And there is people in the creative process where when something's a small sproutling, that you don't want to expose it to too much sun. You want to let it like grow at its own pace. And so I do honor, like what comes through the visualizations is often for us, not necessarily for the world until it's ripe and ready. So
yeah, thank you.
Of course. Okay, so good. I want to move on, and I'm going to share. I'm trying to. I guess I'll do that. There we go. All right. So here's the deal. We're embarking on this journey, and we are, whether you're doing the next 2 weeks, solo or with a group, what is really fundamental at the beginning of writing is pre-writing. And the concept of pre-writing can be super foreign for those of us who are like creative, flowy people, because the fantasy is like, oh, the inspiration will just strike me. I'll put pen to paper and it'll just, start to flow, and I don't need to know where it goes. And so I want to honor that. Yes, we get struck by brilliant ideas, and there's a discovery, like almost like hoeing, and you're creating a path and you don't know where the path is going to lead. However, this is a partial truth, because what we know in this world of duality is that creativity is both flow and it's also structure. So you have to have structure and flow. And the best metaphor for this is like needing riverbanks in order for the river to be rapid and ranging. If you don't have riverbanks and you have a river, and it's, I'm trying to, sorry, get rid of the background noise. What'll happen is your flowing river will turn into a mushy marsh. And that's just like, you know, not, like who wants to read a book that's a mushy marsh? It'll leak your energy everywhere. And so what I'm speaking to is this question of like pre-writing and planning and outlining. And a lot of people in, you know, every writer has this debate, and the debate is, do I outline and plan, or do I fly by the seat of my pants? And so the polemic is actually called Panthers versus planners. And you probably already have a sense of, oh, I'm a planner or I'm a pantser. And what we now know is that the most successful writers are both, and it's always both. And it's the, you know, the combination. For those of you that are really, you know, like spontaneous and like to flow, then putting more energy into the planning is going to benefit you. Whereas those of you who are like meticulously planning and have every word written before you actually put it into, you know, you have it planned out before you actually write it, then you're going to benefit more from being more spontaneous. But either way, the pre-writing process is all about planning. So the next 2 weeks, what you want to be doing is a whole lot of brainstorming. And the idea behind brainstorming is, whether you use mind maps, or you can get a big flow chart, or you can get 3x5 cards, like the actual, like I have a lot of different methods, and I encourage people to do different ones because they'll find, you know, what works for them. But the idea is you're gathering the clay, right? So if you were sculptors and you were going to, you know, make pottery, then and you only have this much clay and you're trying to do it, you're not going to have enough to even make a pot, right? You'll have maybe a coaster. But the idea is to write a whole book, you want to put all the clay, you know, gather it. And that means pages and pages of like all the ideas that you have around the central concept. And the central concept may even evolve. You know, it's like, I'll give Brian's example. You know, when he wrote me at first, and he's like, I'm going to write a book about houses. You know, of course, I don't know Brian's life's work. So it could have been, is he about talking about selling houses? Is he talking about organizing houses? You know, of course, talking about like, you know, remodeling, and, you know, is it maybe fixing up houses? You know, there's lots of different central concepts on which regarding houses. And you might set out to write. And when you write out everything, you know, you realize, oh, the book is actually, this is the scope. I thought it was going to be over here, but this is what I know. And this is where my expertise is. And that process of brainstorming is really just the first step, because once you have all the clay, then there's a certain like organizing of the outline, how to get this wild octopus shaped brainstorm into something that resembles a table of contents. And, you know, and there's formulas for a lot of this, which is so valuable, like as artists, to just say, hey, not just like formulas can feel not just cliche or restrictive, but they also are gifts, because if we're going to be artists, we want to work within industry standards. And depending on your genre, there's different standards about how big a book should be, about how long the chapters are. And if you come to the project and you try to make up your own rules, then your book's not going to be respected or seen in the same way, like especially if you're trying to get a traditional publisher, which, you know, I would upfront speak into a little bit about whether you're doing self-publishing or trade publishing, because there's a little bit different of a approach in the beginning. But in today's day and age, I do recommend that everybody approach the book as like, I'm publishing this book with or without a publisher, because we all have access to self-publishing, that we should move forward as if it's going to get published with or without. And what that formula will tell you, depending on your genre, is, okay, is it going to be 10 chapters? Are they 10-page chapters? Or is it, you know, like, if it's a academic topic, oftentimes it's a 400-page book versus, you know, if it's a novella, which, you know, I would say is about 50,000 words, and you'd want to know, based on your genre, how much you're writing. And one of the very first things that we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of a creative math, which is to say, coming up with a deadline. If we were going to finish a book in 90 days, we would want to know, you know, what, like when you held the book in your heart, you have a sense already. Is it a skinny book? Is it a fat book? Is it, you know, like you have a sense. But based on the genre, you'd be clear on how many pages you want to write, and then how many pages you need to write per day in 90 days to actually complete the project. And the reason we would do that math, because I know most artists are pretty math averse, it's important because without a deadline, it's just a dream. Like, real writing requires deadlines. And if you don't have an editor or an agent who's breathing down your neck, then you want to self-generate that. You want to be your own editor. You want to have your own deadline. And so one of the beautiful things about this, you know, the potential doing it in a course like this, is that we become accountability buddies for each other. And we're social animals. So much gets accomplished when we do it for each other than if we're just doing it for ourselves. And a good example of this is just the, I don't know how many of you have public or personal trainers. Like if you're working out with a personal trainer, like you show up and you work out. If you just work out for yourself, you might get a little bit lazy. But the reason that gyms exist around the world, like gyms are so popular, is that we're like tribal, you know, monkeys. Monkey see, monkey do. And if you're in a gym and people are watching you, you're going to lift harder and faster than you would if you're in your own garage. And I'm wanting you to not only have the support of this, you know, creative coven, but I also want you to, whether or not you join us, I'm going to challenge you right now. So this is your homework, is to tell the world, post it on Facebook or Instagram, that you are writing a book and what your deadline is. You know, you're writing a book by, and the reason, you know, you can choose to say what it's about, title, working, whatever. Most importantly, it's like, hey, friends and lovers, will you hold me accountable? Will you support me? Put my feet to the fire? Because the minute that we do that, the minute we tell the world that we're writing a book, we have the most powerful force in existence working for us, which is our ego. It's like, all of a sudden your ego's like, oh, you told your friends you're writing a book by summertime, huh? Then you start getting uncomfortable, really uncomfortable with the inconsistency, meaning the incongruence between who you say you are or who you think you are and what you're actually doing. And that gap between, you know, oh shit, I've got to write my pages, it starts to get so uncomfortable that you get into action. So it's a little bit like hacking, is using the social proof or social pressure to get yourself to write. But one of the gifts that we have, you know, today as artists is a deeper understanding of the human mind and human behavior and how it works. In fact, in the last I guess it's been 5 years since I had a nervous breakdown, and the recovery of the nervous breakdown was all about biohacking. It was learning about brain chemistry, learning about, like well-being and balance of different mental, spiritual, physical, psychological realms. And I have a whole new understanding and appreciation for the brain chemistry and how that plays into our own behavior. So I want to share with you that most of us here, have this idea, like, I want to write this book, but we're these habitual animals who, have our little routines. And if we don't have a routine and habit of writing each day, then the book just doesn't get written. And currently, one of the things that we know will motivate humans to do anything is like the dopamine that's attached and associated with it. And we know this about addiction. And what I want to do in the course of this, even the first 2 weeks of the course, is develop a addiction to writing. And we can kind of biohack ourselves to do that. First thing that we're going to do is do some form of dopamine detox, because right now, most of us, myself included, are addicted to Facebook or YouTube or some kind of, like when we go online, it's like we plug into something that creates a hyper stimulus in our brain. And it's like, ooh, that's so exciting. That's so interesting. The brain's doing a cascade of dopamine. And then we think, okay, now I'm going to sit for 2 hours in front of a blank page and write what I know. And it's like the contrast is like the brain, it's like a depletion. It doesn't have the dopamine. It doesn't have the drive to write our books because we get so much dopamine from these other activities. And so the detox allows us to kind of say, okay, I'm going to actually start rewiring towards the more rewarding behavior. Like, how do I get stimulated? And we're going to start associating things like, again, posting and getting social reward, but also doing little celebrations every time we hit our 1,000-word, milestone, or maybe it's, my pages for the day. Then you celebrate in some way, but telling people that you're going to do it. There's different ways to create and associate dopamine to the writing. And additionally, I want you to associate pain to not doing it. So, I'm starting here by saying, I started the whole course, this class, by saying, why do you want to write a book? And, I got some general answers, but what I really want you to come away from today is a burning why you want to write the book. Like the motivation to write the book has to be so big and shiny that it's going to pull you forth into this marathon, because writing a book is like a marriage, where it's like, there are some hard times when you're going to want to be like, oh, that was a nice one-night stand. Can I leave now? It's like, no, you're in a marriage. You want to really have a motivation to stay and to deepen. And so, I would like to go around the circle a little bit more and have you genuinely, authentically get in touch with why you really want to write a book, because that, when you have a big enough why, we can accomplish all kinds of things. But the converse is also true, which is to really look at, like, if you never write this book, what's it going to cost you? And I'm going to start off by sharing some examples, which is, so when I wrote my first book, when I wrote this novel, I honestly, this is kind of embarrassing now, but what motivated me more than anything else was the fucking book release party. I was like, I want to have a fabulous party, wear a dress, be like, I wrote a book, and it's the sense of accomplishment and the social, like, celebration of having told my story. And that's why I wrote this book. which is kind of ironic right now because Cleese is publishing 52 Fridays, and I was so excited about my both books, that and Sex Shamans. I was like, yeah, I get to throw another book release party. And because of social distancing, both of my book release parties are canceled this year. But the real reason, that I wrote Sacred Sexual Healing, this is now a nonfiction book that was deeply channeled. Like, this book, by the way, was written in I signed a contract with Babadez, my co-author, and 4 months after the contract was signed, I had this book in my hands. And it is it was such an open, clear channel, which is what I'm excited to share more of, is these channeling tools. And maybe I'll leave that, as a PS of this call, is something that you can do daily to help you channel. But the reason for this book was because I was so lonely as a sacred sexual healer. I felt isolated, I felt misunderstood, and I felt like this was a man who was connected to a global conversation. And by writing this book, it would plug me into a network where we could work together. Like, there was a real sense of a community and a tribe needed this message. And that was my why. And that burned, that motivated me to stay up late writing, wake up early writing, and it carried me through those 4 months. And so, each book has its different reason, but usually what's happening is there's an external reason. Like, you might be like, oh, I should because it'll be good for my credentials, or it'll launch my career, or it'll, but often there's an internal reason, which is the real reason I'm writing this book is because I want to prove to my ex-husband that I'm not worthless, or, I'm being facetious, but there often is some real, I want to, my father's published lots of books, and he's been translated into 17 languages. And there was a part of me that was oh, I want to, follow in his footsteps. And that actually motivated me. And so, having shared some of my own reasons, I'd love to take a few volunteers. Let's generate more reasons why you want to write books. Show of hands. Michael?
Yeah, as you're speaking about this, it makes me realize that that I want to write the book so that I can bring in that community that is like-minded for me. I want to find that community. I want to help develop that community. My book is about purpose, and being in a beautiful state despite circumstances, and how we can find our purpose by being in a beautiful state. It helps us to channel that purpose. And I realize that's, I want to be surrounded by people that have that, that forward vision.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good. Who else? Daphne?
Hi, so excited to be here. Gosh, I think for me, as with any artistic process, I think there's an alchemy involved in it, where, which is actually one of the themes that I want to write about. So this transmuting of certain painful experiences and harvesting the beauty and the wisdom out of that. So there's a personal, reason to kind of synthesize past few years of heartbreak and difficult experiences into something really beautiful and empowering. And I think through that process to be able to share those paths with others who might still be suffering or struggling with integrating certain parts of their story.
Good. So what I'm hearing is kind of twofold, and it's that beautiful self and other. It's I want to crystallize this for myself, and I want to be able to, share it and inspire others.
Yeah, I think it's like compassion for self, and then having also more compassion for others, and allowing others to be able to have more self-compassion through that process.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And I encourage, whether or not I call on you, I encourage you to write down in a sentence your burning why, and actually, like put it on a note card or put it on your mirror, like so that you remember and you can add to it as it evolves, because our whys to write a book will inevitably evolve because we're on the journey. But Taina, did I see your hand?
I'll unmute myself. Are we still taking questions
Yes.
for shares for why we want to write our story or why we want a book? For me, it's twofold. So first, I really wanted to share my story and share how far I've come. But it's so much more than just me. Like, I really feel in my core that I am here along with you and so many other people to bring, and especially everyone that's on this call, to bring in the new earth and a new way of being and a new way of leading from heart, from compassion, from passion and pleasure. And I feel like having had gone through all of the difficulties that I've gone through in my life, from being an immigrant and being born in Mexico City, from being raised with gangs and violence and gunshots and all that different things, of finding a life of immense beauty and joy and pleasure and helping people wake up to their true self, to their highest self, is such a gift that wants to come through me to help others, saying no matter what your situation, no matter where you've been, you can find the divine within you because it's there. You can create the life that you've always wanted, because that's what the game that you're playing is, the game of reality. I want to share that in a book.
Beautiful. Good. Thank you. Okay, sweet. So what as we're kind of rounding the hour out, I'm going to share a little bit more about the process. And as I promised, I'll kind of I'll bookend the course with a practice that you can do to raise your vibration for channeling, whether or not you do the course. Now, I mentioned that the first 2 weeks would be pre-writing. Now, the way I look at this, this unique time is that we would be kind of gathering our energy, pre-writing, starting to vision. But at my intention is to start the actual course by the 15th. And so that would take us, in the 90-day journey, that would take us through, what is that, Michael? July 15th, I think. Oh, you know what it is? It's so funny. I want to start on tax day because this is that weird thing where, because of the coronavirus, the tax day has actually been put off for 90 days. So in the window, we're going to actually finish on tax day again. I was just looking at my calendar, and I like starting with holidays or something momentous, and I just think that's fascinating. But the point of that is, whether or not you do the class, ask yourself, 90 days from today, where do I want to be? Come July 15th, I might have a first draft of my manuscript in my hands to share with the world to celebrate. Or I might have nothing to show for it. And this is where I want you to associate some of the pain of not having it. What's that going to cost you? What are the opportunities? How are you going to feel about yourself? How are you going to feel to your community if you've made that announcement? And to actually feel the pain and the discomfort of it is part of, knowing what motivates you. And my desire would be to have a intimate group, like it's at least a dozen of us who will embark on this, not after the pre-writing, so we'll embark on the whole journey. And what it'll look like is being a part of a mentor, mastermind. The courses, the teachings that I have are actually self-paced. So I, along with you, along with, you know, the journey, will be working on my own book and participating in it. The self-paced part is that I have audio recordings each week for, I think it's 10 weeks, you know, nine weeks each week. But in addition to listening to those recordings, writing your pages, you will have an accountability buddy, which is somebody to check in with, and that will rotate through the week. And then we will have occasional group calls like this where we'll answer questions, you know, we'll talk about our projects. And so it's not so much, you know, the group calls won't be for the instructional purposes, it'll be for the synergy and the co-creation and the sharing ideas and holding and sharing obstacles. Because what'll come up after the pre-writing, then we'll get into the writing phase. And I have deep, beautiful technologies to accelerate and shortcut the writing so that you can really be in the divine flow. And obstacles are going to come up. And sometimes they're internal obstacles, sometimes they're external. Like I like to think of it like, you know, when you're, it's a battle metaphor. There's a ground battle, and then there's like air war. And sometimes the air war is just like your own perfectionist, your own like self-doubt, your own writer's block, and all the internal stuff that's going to arise in the writing journey is something that's, you know, I've seen it all. We can address it together. We can support each other, but we want to overcome the internal obstacles. Sometimes they're external obstacles, which is, hey, I've written this far in the book and then I had a revelation. That means I now have to change my subject entirely, or I want to rewrite everything I've written, or I was writing about a current event and then all of a sudden the current event changed. You know, these are practical obstacles, and those are things that we can support each other on the group. And so through that process, all the way to, you know, the deadline, what I've found is that having run this course many times before, is about a third of the group will finish their book, will actually absolutely complete their manuscripts in 90 days, which is amazing and powerful. And a third of the group will drop out. Will just be like, look, it just got too hard. The marathon in the middle gave me, you know, calluses on my feet and I just couldn't keep running. And that's okay. You know, it's like, you know, that's the honest thing, is that it's writing a book. You know, they say 82% of everyone, this is New York Times says 82% of humans want to write a book, you know, and only 1%, you know, of the population actually does. And so even though books are easier than ever and thousands are coming out self-published, you know, it's a very elite group that finishes their manuscript. The other third of the group, and this is really powerful, it's like you may not finish your manuscript in 90 days, but you will write more than you've ever written in your entire life in this, you know, in these months. And that's more important to me, is that you're actually developing the practice as well as the craft, and the quality of what you're writing is way more important than the quantity. A big part of the emphasis of the course will be on, you know, deadlines and pages and producing quantity, because that's how we kind of develop the muscle of writing. But ultimately, whether you finish your manuscript or not, committing to this journey is going to give you lifelong skills as a writer. So that means, you know, that you would be talking to a partner once a week. You'd be, you know, sending updates on the mastermind. And I'd request that you have at least 10 hours per week to write during the next 90 days. Now, that 10 hours is like a part-time job. But if you think about it like this, whether you're in quarantine or not, you know, if you say, hey, I'm going to do 5 hours on a Saturday, 5 hours on a Sunday, that's my 10 hours. Some of you, I do 2 hours every weekday. Some of you, it's, I do all 10 hours in a marathon and sit, you know, and I don't know how it's going to break up for you in your lifestyle, but the request is that you look at your life, you look at your calendar, and you say, what am I currently doing that is not adding value to my life right now? Because I promise you, you are spending 10 hours on
TV,
Netflix, or, you know, like reading junk mail, or, you know, like, what is it that you're doing, you know, that you don't need to be doing so that you can actually do something that's going to valuably move your life purpose forward. And so if you honestly look at your calendar and you say, I don't have 10 hours, I can't do that, then I'd say this class is not for you. I'd also say this class is not for you if you don't have an open mind to trying things different. Like if you're a seasoned writer, which by the way, I love having other published authors, and I've got a lot of peers that do this class with me. And oftentimes those of us who are, you know, teachers are the worst students, and you might be like, I've written before, I know how to write, I know what works for me. Then you don't need this class, because this class is going to stretch you to do things very differently and get different results. So you need to have an open mind. And, you know, the course investment right now, like it really is a gift of $108 to a charity that I feel very strongly about. You know, I'm really wanting to feed hungry kids right now. And if you know, so I'm asking that everybody put $108 in investing in this course. And if for some reason, understandably, the economy is really affected right now, if you're like, hey, I can't spare the $108, like it's not a responsible choice, then I'd say put those 10 hours towards making money, not towards writing a book. So that's another like kind of requirement. So between, you know, who the class is for and who it's not for, I'd say the only other piece about what's required of you is a willingness at the spiritual level to be transformed. Like this, there is no deeper personal growth practice that I know of than channeling. Like it will, you know, rearrange your furniture. If you give yourself 90 days to open this channel and to listen to what needs to come through you, who you will be at the end of the journey is different. So if you're invested in staying the same, you know, don't do this course. With that, if you have more questions about the course, PM me privately. Like I'd really love to answer any details. And the process is basically, you know, PayPaling me the $108 to save your place, and you'll be put in the private group. And it's as simple as that. Yeah, you have to send me your name and email address along with that. So that's my invitation. So that's the enrollment speech part. And I will now share with you a final channeling tip. And then I will stay online for anybody that has any questions relating to writing. So the class questions I can handle offline, but I'd like to offer extra value if anybody's kind of in an obstacle. And the question to ask yourself is, what is stopping me? What is the limiting step in my own writing journey? What do I keep coming up against? And if you present me with that, we can brainstorm and see if we can loosen that up a little bit. So here's my blessing to you. You know, as you go into the next couple of weeks with the intention of writing, and there's some steps around creating a writing space, also finding the right time of the day, and we can have all those conversations later. But before you begin your writing practice, to raise your vibration I'm going to give you Wayne Dyer's teaching. I have a lot of different practices. This is probably my favorite because it was one of my first. Wayne Dyer wrote 40 books, 20% of which were bestsellers. And this man, this gorgeous mind, would not dream of putting his fingers on the keyboard if he didn't sit for a moment, light a candle, breathe, and then actually chant. And he felt that the sound ah, like ah, just following ah, was a universal sound of God. Because God, Allah, Yahweh, like the ah sound transculturally, it invokes like this high vibration of the divine. And so he would do that until he felt, and he says 5 minutes minimum. Sometimes he'd go into it and kind of come out a half hour later. But it's just, I'm going to open myself up to the God force that's in me, and then I'm going to start my writing practice. So I bless you with that practice, and look forward to hearing your results on it. And now I'm open to questions. And if you have to go at this point, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you soon. Yes.
May I offer a short plug?
Sure.
Having been through this before, you talked about obstacles. My sense from my past experience is that the way you do this, the process you use, will essentially remove most of the obstacles that are not within me.
Mm.
So it makes the rest of it simple enough that if you follow the methodology, it makes it's easy enough. You just have to get through what blocks you personally. So if for the price you're offering this, you can't go wrong.
Thank you, Brian. Yes, it is true, and in some ways, I'm not doing the course, service. This first class, I'm kind of just like rah cheerleading. The truth is there's a deep method and practice to what I'm about to teach, but it needs the cauldron, it needs the sacred container in order to teach it. Otherwise, it's not going to be useful to you. And so I'm not able to actually give that to you. I would if I could give you a taste of it here, but it's kind of a, you have to be called and committed in order to get that. So thank you, Brian. Who else?
Hi, I'm Joanna.
Hi, Joanna.
Hi. So Clarity just told me about this morning, and I'm a singer-songwriter, poet, indie creator for film, and a lot of that's been on the back burner as I got into life, into trying to survive and make money. And I'm in a workshop right now. It's called Big Book Awakenings, actually through Alcoholics Anonymous and Al-Anon. And a lot of the work that I'm doing is to be able to remove those blocks so I can get focused. And I have wanted to write a book in the past, and I was like, oh, well, let me just check this out. And some of the work that I'm doing through removing the fears and resentment and becoming open and allowing God into my life. And the one thing is like, really trusting. I know you were saying like, well, if you need to make money right now, well, like what I've learned is that God becomes my employer, and that's why I appreciate you mentioning that, because if we really trust this process, that God or universe or whatever that connection that we have with each other, because what I'm learning through all of this, because I have lost my job. I've been out of work for a week now, or a week and a half, 2 weeks, I think, actually 2 weeks. And, it's finding a purpose. And so I am going to dig deep and far to find that purpose. So I appreciate you, this being opened and allowing us on this free call today. So thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. It's so core to everything that we do. Source is basically animating us, and whether or not we recognize whose hand we're playing, we are these divine emissaries. but writing more so than other things, because what we're doing is taking the unmanifest, like the formless, the inspiration, and we're putting it into form. I mean, we're basically getting so close to the creator because we're creating. Like our creativity actually is, it's how we play God in physical form. So it is a very divine process. And I, want to acknowledge, this idea that God is my employer. It's also, when we say yes to channeling a book, what we're saying is I'm God's secretary. Like, I'm going to take dictation. It's like, I'm now just I'm writing for you, God. And I say that with a deep trust in everybody's intimate connection to source may look different, and they may have different cosmology, and I have respect for the diversity of all that. But this process is just too magical and too kind of soul ordained to take credit for. It's not like I can say, oh, this is a product of our mind. It's not. It's actually the alchemy of, it's the byproduct of what happens when we get close to source as we start to create.
Right. Yeah. And I think, the one thing with all this work that I've been doing, and it's like, how do we create a life beyond our wildest dreams? And what does that mean? Like I always thought like creating life was like, oh, that I had enough money to do and it was always like, if I just had enough money, and being an artist and a musician and everything, it never really was about the money. It was about to be able to create and share a message, which was what finally, after it was like, okay, I'm an artist, I'm in this, I'm in that, like I was all over the map, and I had to focus on one area, which became the singing songwriting that I did for so many years, but I haven't wrote a song in years, And so like, maybe this is the purpose I have now, is to actually write a book. So,
Great.
I appreciate, you sharing and giving us this platform. So
thank you. Good. Other questions or challenges? Diane.
Hi, sorry. Okay. I just wanted to know, if we do want to join the group, what was the best way? Do you want us to email you, or do we go to, what was the way you want to join?
So email me. What I'll do is I'll put a PayPal link in the group itself, and I'm gonna kind of be in the enrollment process in the next 2 weeks. During that time, I'm asking everybody on the course to be in the brainstorming process, right? So you're kind of gathering the clay for the journey. But yeah, it's pretty simple. It's send me $108 PayPal, which I'll then, once in the next 2 weeks, forward on to No Child Hungry. I think that's the name of it's like Leave No Child Hungry. No, it's the name of the cause. And in that process, we'll put you in the group.
Love it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
No Kid Hungry, by the way. Okay, great. So
I have a question.
Excellent.
I'm interested. I mean, structure is something I'm really wanting right now, and that accountability really calls to me. Because when you were asking about, okay, in 3 years, what would be the pain? My first part, my mind, my ego, whatever, when it's like, well, I live in non-attachment, I don't have any pain. And it was like, it would be that part that would be, another 3 months and I haven't gotten this done. And I'm not able to share that in a practical way with the world. So thank you for that. What comes up for me right now, so that for the next 2 weeks, is I have multiple books that I've been working on for years. You probably heard that from a lot of people, but I focused it down to 2. And as we were talking here, and one is the manifestation wisdom, the laws of creation, which I'm actually starting today a spiritual mastermind. And so a part of me is going, oh, this is in perfect alignment because I can write as I'm doing it. And also I have a lot of that written. It's old writing that needs editing.
Right.
And why I want to do it is because this is the wisdom that takes people beyond abundance consciousness, beyond, that includes this, of course, but it's beyond the basics, of, law of attraction and thought creates, to, okay, but how do you literally co-create with life in a practical way? And I've used this in my own business to be successful as a healer and health and all sorts of things. The other one is that I've developed a rainbow healing method that combines advanced chakra therapy, emotional wisdom, energy work, and other things to really help people to identify, release stuffed emotions in a healing way, and to actually heal the judgments that causes that to happen. This is something I'm going to actually be teaching in my modern shaman training. So both of them right now are like calling to me.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have something that would be a suggestion to help me decide? Well, my practical mind says laws of creation, because that's what's coming up here. It'd be easier.
Sure.
I really want that wisdom out for people, and it would also help my people to have it in a written form. The rainbow energy would take a lot more work.
Mm-hmm.
And I could always do this process with that one when I start the energy course, which will be in about 3 months.
Sure. So, I mean, the ultimate answer is that it is up to you, right? You're the authority. And the criteria by which I want you to consider, and this is valuable for everyone who's thinking about books, I expect you're showing up here with some of you are like, hey, it's just a vague idea. And some of you are like, I've been working on this for 10 years. I know Viraja mentioned that she's already got her outline, or I know Diane, your burn book is something that been burn journaling is something you've probably got a body of writings on already. And the criteria is we're going into a very unique writing journey that's not like, it's not a classic or traditional writing course. So traditionally in writing courses, you might write a chapter, you might sit around in a read and critique book, you might be, talking about this, refining it, upgrading it, and there'd be researching involved. And that's not the kind of book writing that we're doing. So most of you who are like, like Clarity, who said, oh, I think I know what I'm going to write about. And like, you're at square one, like kind of like tabula rasa, blank canvas, you're going to be much better off. And so, Linda, I know that you have your life's work, and it is important for you in the next 90 days to write more on that than ever before and get that closer to a shape where you can get it out into the world. I'm not going to ask you to scrap what you have, but I am going to suggest that the project on which you have the less attachment to form is the one in which you'll be more successful at writing. And I say that because the way in which this course will take you on a journey that's such a radical left turn from how you think a book should be written, that if you've got a half-written book, you're going to be struggling. You're going to be like, but wait, I'm trying to fit this book into this form, and you're going to be torn during the course. And I know Vicky started off in the beginning of this class saying, hey, I want to write a children's book. Is that okay for the course? And the truth is, like, she'll get value out of writing with other writers, but she won't be able to use the formula of what we're doing, which is how to channel a book. And if you've got a body of work or life's work that you're trying to already kind of retrofit or work with, I would recommend going with the newer idea or something that you don't have established.
Okay. Or either that or just be very open to a completely new structure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's what I'm actually about, is like changing my structure.
Excellent.
So I'm in.
Okay. Beautiful, Linda. I look forward to working with you.
Yeah.
Great. Good. So
I got to go. Thank you.
Blessings. Is there anyone that has a final burning question or challenge that they'd like some coaching on?
Hi, I'm wondering if you're going to be continuing these courses.
Continuing the courses. So specifically, this is a preview course for a 90-day journey. And I may do another preview course because I found out recently that this was by invitation only and it wasn't out to the public. So I might be like, do one more. But then the continued courses are going to be in the format of the mastermind for everyone who makes the $108 donation to the cause.
Right, so you'll have more of these starting from the beginning though, because I'm still working. I don't really have 10 hours a week that I can definitely devote.
Right. Yeah. So there is a self-paced course that when this is a priority or when work slows down or whatever, you can definitely join us on the self-paced course. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Super. I'm ready. Thank you.
All right. Good. And so if that's the final question for today, I'll look forward to hearing from each of you who wants to follow up with me. Just let me know, how the writing's going, and maybe join me for the next, like I said, I'll probably do another preview course in order for me not to get bored. It'll probably be a whole different format and topic because this one will be posted online. And there's no need to repeat this, but you're welcome to join me on that next week as well. I'd love to finish, as we're doing a semi-closing circle, if there's anyone who wants to share what was the most valuable thing they got out of our time together, that would be a sweet kind of exclamation point for me, just a nice aftertaste after sharing as much as I have. What was the most valuable thing for you? Mindy?
Well, that it kind of scares me, so I think I'm going to do it.
Feel the fear. Good.
Yeah, because the idea. Oh, and actually, I'm sorry, a quick question. For the next 2 weeks, you're suggesting in pre-writing to just let ideas flow around a central concept. Is that right?
Yeah, brainstorming and writing and journaling and, scribbling on napkins.
Right. Okay.
Great.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Good. What else was the most valuable thing you got? Francois. Hi, beautiful.
Well, you came at the right time. For me, it's perfect. I mean, a willingness to be transformed on a spiritual level. You really got me on that one. That too? A book and that? Wow.
Thank you. Good. I really look forward to working with you. One more takeaway.
I've got one.
Okay.
Just what has been coming to me and continues to come to me is that to changing this word called social distancing as in physical distancing, and so really how important it is for us as a community to continue to be social. And I think I'm continuing to hear, and this Governor Newsom has said this too, like it's physical distancing, not social distancing. So I think if we can change that word, and I think that resonates with me. So, I want to continue to be becoming social because the isolating and all that kind of stuff is not working. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. It's nice being social with you all. And I'll look forward to more soon. So blessings on your writing. Blessings, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.